Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Jenkins. I'm your professor for Communication 228, Communication and Popular Culture. Um, I'm sorry that we are not in person because I've been really working to revamp this class, and I was very excited about doing it in person. Hopefully, we will be together in a couple weeks, though. So I'm trying to make these first couple weeks until then a little light, but we do need to cover some of the business. So this video will just kind of cover what's going on in the syllabus. Um, Best way to contact me is via email right here. Um, so do that if you have any questions. Be sure to buy the books as soon as possible. We're going to read a chapter from this book next class on for Thursday, and so I'm gonna post a scan of that chapter for you. It's under files, um, so you can read it. But go ahead and purchase it ASAP anyway. And then this other book we won't start reading until about midway through the semester, but please purchase it as well. It's an amazing book, and I think it's really going to open our eyes. Um, but one of the things that's going on is with that is it's a pretty difficult book to read. So we're going to kind of read it slowly and read it together, and I think it'll really help you learn about your own emotions and the role of pop culture in those emotions. So you know, we're talking about pop culture. This is not, however, we're not trying to learn, trivia that you can take to the bar on for your Tuesday night trivia questions. What we are doing, though, is trying to understand what pop culture is communicating to us. And really, the thing we're going to talk a lot about is how popular culture sells us fantasies. Um, and whether we realize it or not, oftentimes our own like desires and what we think of as normal and abnormal and desirable and undesirable come from those fantasies. You think about the way that pop culture tells us that sex and relationships are really important over and over again, and gives this fantasy sort of the one true love. And we internalize those fantasies, and sometimes to our own detriment. Sometimes those fantasies end up being harmful to us. We have skewed perceptions of reality because of them. And so we're going to try to learn to think critically about these fantasies, to expose them, and to also compare them to what reality actually is, right? A lot of times our fantasies don't match up with reality. So objectives, we're going to gain an understanding of some of the basic ideas of communication and how to do what's called rhetorical and cultural criticism. That is, learning to interpret and analyze the messages that are sent to us via popular culture. That will help improve your critical thinking skills. Will also develop your writing skills. We will, the main project in this class will be to write an essay that does an analysis of a popular culture text of some kind. And by a text, I mean it could be a music video, it could be a movie, it could be a TV show, it could be a video game, etc. And hopefully this will help, like I said, kind of open your mind somewhat, right? I like a lot of times to describe it as sort of these light bulb moments where I see students in classes, and I had experienced it myself taking a similar class to this, where I suddenly had this light bulb go off, and I watched pop culture and understood the world in a different way. Instead of it just being harmless fun, I realized that there were important things being said in these messages, and a light bulb went off. For my course expectations, I try to teach all courses in the same way, and what I'm looking for from you is first of all engagement. That is, really participate in class. Do the activities in class. Do the assignments outside of class. And the second thing is effort. With these things, right? we're making arguments about what the messages in pop culture are. We don't always agree on what those messages might be and whether those messages are positive or negative, but that's fine. I'm not going to grade you down just because I disagree with you or have a different opinion. But do want to see is you put in the effort to uh, back up that opinion and to support it with logical reasons. So I try to grade things based on how much effort you put into it. The rest of this here is mostly kind of the fine print. It says, you need access to a computer, that you're bound by the UC Student Code of Conduct, which means things like, not being abusive and also not plagiarizing. That if we have a written assignment like your final paper or the book review we'll do, that you should turn those in printed in sort of like normal font and stuff. The attendance policy, you can miss 5 days for free. That includes being sick or whatever reason. Every day after 5, it's basically a third of a letter grade deduction. So you would go from like an A to an A minus or an A minus to a B plus, etc. If you have any learning accommodations, please let me know. I don't think there will be anything in this class that will, we don't have like timed quizzes or whatever. So I think you'll be okay, but do let me know. And when we come together, this is just a warning about please don't be on your cell phones while we're in class. Here's the points and what's going on in the class. Participation, 80 points. Quizzes, anytime we have reading, there'll be a short quiz on Canvas that accompanies that. I'll show you that on Canvas and where it's at. It's just under the quizzes tab. And you must do that quiz before the class period that day. So, there's no makeup quizzes if you miss that day or you don't do it on time. It's only 100 points out of 1,000 points. So if you miss one of the quizzes here and there or miss a question here or there, it's not going to make or break you. There'll be a little bit of in-class work and homework where we'll break into small groups and do activities or something like that. And I ask you to turn in something, and I'll give you points for those. Again, this is not something you can make up. It's just something that you'll turn in as we do it in class. Then you see the big assignments here. First of all, like I mentioned, the critical essay. This is what we're working towards at the end of the class, and that includes the paper proposal. So you'll propose what piece of pop culture you want to analyze, and then at the end of the semester, we'll do an analysis. We're going to walk through a bunch of examples of doing analysis, and the book we're reading has a nice template, I think, that we'll base it off of to do this critical essay. But that's about, including the paper proposal, that's going to be about 40% of your grade, so it's a real significant point of your grade. The other thing we're doing is an outline or a book review of the Ionide book, the Emotional Politics of Racism book. Again, I mentioned that this is a difficult read. It's some of it is easy to read, but some of it is, there's some big words, there's some long sentences. It's an academic work, so sometimes it can be difficult to read. So what we're going to do to ensure that everyone does the reading as well as to make sure that everyone gets it is we're going to do either book reviews or outlines of what we read and turn those in. So basically an outline would be as you're, reading, you kind of take notes in outline form of what like each paragraph says, or bullet point form. I'll show you a little bit of that below. The book review would be more like written out in sort of full sentence form, where you summarize what the points are, or the arguments were in that section of the book. So either kind of a summary of what you read or an outline of what you read, and I will, be grading these basically on the thoroughness. Did you cover all of the points that were in the book. Participation in the class, it's 80 points. You can see that's 8% of your grade. And I will measure that by passing out what I call game balls in class. That is, we're going to have days in class where we do activities together. If you participate in those activities, I'll say you get a game ball, and then I'll mark those just as a way to keep track of how many people participated. Also, you'll see there's a lot of brainstorming days in class. The way that the book that we're reading works is it talks about these different fantasies, um, and then we're gonna brainstorm like what texts in pop culture, like what movies, what TV shows, etc., reinforce those fantasies or advance those fantasies. Um, and so we'll brainstorm those things, and we'll try to write, you know, research questions for our papers during those days. And you'll do that in small groups. And as you turn in uh, the research questions at the end of the day, and your brainstorming at the end of the day, I'll give you game balls for that. Um, and same thing, just other sorts of assignments and stuff. Um, and you know, I'll just call you out when you say something smart in class. I'll say you get a game ball, and then I'll keep track of participation points that way. There's not much to say about the homework and the in-class work, other than like this is mostly stuff you can handwrite. You don't need to like print it out. It's just going to be like short answer stuff um, that you'll write out and turn in. There are the reading quizzes. We only have 12 days where we have reading, but every day there is reading, there'll be a quiz, and you'll see that's marked below in the syllabus. The book reviews are outlines. Um, Again, reading the Ionide book will be absolutely essential. So you need to turn in either an outline or a review of the book um, 2 different times. Um, each one will be about 5 to 6 pages in length. If it's the outline, the bullet pointed form, that'll be more single spaced. If you do write it out like a book review, that can be double spaced. But what you're trying to do with either one is just kind of summarize the main points in the reading. I encourage you to do that as we go along. You'll see we only have reading on 1 day a week, and usually the reading is 15 pages or less. So you know, what I encourage you to do is read it and outline it as you go along, and then once it's due, you'll already have it done, right? You won't have to go back and do a major assignment. What I'm looking for is for you to demonstrate that you've read and understand the book. We'll go over the guidelines for this in the grading rubric a little bit more. But you can basically organize it according to the section or chapter headings in the book. So here's an example from my own notes that I took. The section was titled Intentional versus Unintentional Colorblind Racism. And then you see I just have bullet points, and I tried to kind of you know, hit the main points that were in that section. Uh, Emotional rewards and losses are attached to racism, nativism, and imperialism. Uh, there's a widely held belief of the U.S. is colorblind. We use colorblind terms like criminals, thugs, gangsters, which are actually all about race. Dot dot dot. Right. So you can summarize. You can use some like abbreviations as long as they're, you know, it's obvious what they are, like this people of color, right? Um, and again, this is just a way to make sure that everyone is indeed reading the book, because it's going to be very hard to write the paper if you don't read the book. At the end of the semester, before you turn in your paper, I'm going to have you turn in like a 1 to 2 page sort of paper proposal, which all it's going to do is say, what am I analyzing? What, you know, movie, what show, what video game, what music video, etc. Why is that important to analyze? That is, possibilities include that it's very popular, that it's won awards or nominations, that the actor, the director, or the musician won awards or recognitions, that there was a big public reception or controversy around the pop culture item that I'm analyzing, that it has longevity, like it ran a lot of seasons, etc. Just anything that you can do to say this is an important text, right? This is an important piece of pop culture, and it should be analyzed. Then what's your research question? And you'll see throughout the semester we're going to practice writing these research questions. And then finally, which myth or fantasy do you think the text either reinforces or challenges? So what we'll talk about throughout the semester is these various fantasies, as I mentioned, that pop culture advances. Like perhaps one of the most common ones is the fantasy of the American dream, right? That anyone from any position, if they work hard enough, can climb the social ladder. And obviously, we have a lot of movies and TV shows that sort of replicate that American dream fantasy. So basically, like, what text am I analyzing, and what myth do I think this text reinforces or challenges? It can go against that fantasy too. And then at the end of the semester, you'll write a 6 to 8 page paper detailing that. That paper will basically have two sections. One section will use the ionide reading once again and explain what the myth or the fantasy is that you're talking about, and why it's a myth or a fantasy. Right? Why is the American dream a myth? Why is it actually very difficult for people to climb the social ladder? And then the next section will be you analyzing your text to show how the music video, for instance, that you picked, or the movie that you picked, either challenges or reinforces that myth. So it's pretty basic, here's the myth, this is what the myth is, and here's my text and why my text, is part of that myth or challenges that myth. Let's just check out the schedule together, and then we'll be done. You'll see I marked any day that there's a quiz. And what I'm going to do is each week before the week starts, during that weekend usually, I'll send out an announcement saying, don't forget to do these things this week, and it'll be sort of your checklist for the week. So for next class, please read Cell No Chapter 1 and do the quiz. We will meet via WebEx, as I said in the announcement, for this class. So I hope to see you there. Please attend. It'll be kind of a nice and important overview. Then next Tuesday, we'll sign up for individual meetings. This is just a chance, since we aren't meeting in person right now, for you to come in and introduce yourself and ask any questions you might have about the syllabus. And then we'll kind of introduce you to doing rhetorical analysis. We'll go through some sample analyses together. And then we're going to move into the ionide book. And you'll see what happens with these as we read a little bit, like pages 1 through 9. And then, or pages 9 through 23. And then we will we'll talk about these fantasies, and then we'll brainstorm them. So this will be sort of in-class work where we're doing small group work, trying to come up with different pop culture texts that represent that fantasy, and then also writing some research questions so that we can get practice doing that. Here's where the book review 1 is due, book review 2 due right here on April 14th. And then at the end of the semester, the last 2 class days for the semester, 19 and 21, we'll again have individual meetings on those days. And that is, you'll turn in your paper proposals by that day, and that'll give me a chance to look at them and kind of talk to you in more detail about your paper, right? Just a chance to kind of give you some one-on-one feedback on writing your paper for those last 2 days. I hope that we get to meet in person. As I said, I'm very kind of excited about this class. I have some great activities planned, I think, and it's always a fun class because of talking about pop culture and the way it influences us. So I will see you next class via WebEx, and next Tuesday we'll do some one-on-one introductions and any questions you might have about the syllabus. All right, take care.